Join us at Women of Courage and celebrate the achievements of women. In the upcoming months, I am going to change our format significantly. This year, we will exhaust three subjects: breast cancer in black women, voting, and the subjects for black men. Each of these ideas and subjects is essential for the black community. Our survival depends on the health of black women, our willingness to vote, no matter what, and the fortitude and determination of black males to develop. We might as well face it, the survival of any community depends on the mental and physical health of both the female and male. Children need both their father and mothers, and the community needs happy, substantial families to survive. No culture can survive without either. I want you to join me in our discussions. I want women to realize that the survival of their children is the only proof that they ever existed. Think about what I just said. Your children are the only proof that you ever existed on this earth. So when you are careless about your health and die before your time, the survival of your children is greatly reduced because they will be placed in foster care where they can be abused mentally and physically. I want men to join in learning about breast cancer and try to save the lives of their mothers, sisters, aunts, cousins, and grandmothers. I want men to begin to listen to subjects that can greatly improve their lives. I am going to play certain speeches regarding the need to vote. There will be speeches of Obama, Stacey Abrams, and others. I am also going to discuss Shirley Chisholm, Constance Baker Motley. She is the first African American woman to ever become a federal judge. All in all, I hope you will enjoy the new format and be greatly encouraged in your life. Also, thank you for listening and growing with us.
This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore.
Once again, I am disappointed in Joe Manchin. I'm not going to sit here and say that he doesn't love his country. I'm not going to sit here and say he's a bad guy. I'm not going to sit here and say he's a racist. But I am going to sit here and say he's teaming up with Mitch McConnell to scuttle voting rights reform, to strengthen voting rights in the United States. He is standing against the interest of black and brown Americans in an effort to sidle up to Republicans who have no concern for democracy in America in 2021. That is what's happening. A quote from Joe Manchin: "I will vote against the For the People Act." It's from an op-ed that he wrote recently, from which I will read a little bit in a little bit. I'm not going to go over exactly what the For the People Act entails. There will be a link to it in the description below. The Brennan Center for Justice has an annotated guide going through everything that's in the bill that involves strengthening early voting and securing easy instant voter registration. There isn't anything in the bill that's controversial. There isn't anything in the bill that should be opposed by Republicans. The only reason you would oppose a bill that strengthens voting rights is if you are opposed to voting. And why? would they be opposed to voting? I think the answer is clear. It is a party of white supremacy that wants to chip away at the ability and the ease and the rights of black and brown Americans to vote. That's what we're seeing in Texas. That's what we're seeing in Georgia. That's what we're seeing all over the country with state Republican legislatures. Joe Manchin's doing this under the guise of, we need bipartisanship. But you can't, listen, opposing voting rights because not enough Republicans agree and you want everybody on board is like saying black citizens of America aren't equal. That, I really agree that they should be able to sit at the lunch counter with whites, that they should be able to drink out of the same water fountain as whites. But listen, I can't get on board with it until Republicans agree too. That is nonsense. Certain things, listen, I've talked about this on my podcast. If you want to disagree and bicker and fight and stall on an infrastructure bill, policy like that, have at it. That's fine. That is politics. That's the inner workings of our government and how we fund things. But to oppose basic civil rights, you don't get the same pass. And that is what Joe Manchin is doing. Palling around with Mitch McConnell, the recalcitrant tool, the obstructionist, by his own moniker, the Grim Reaper, and opposing democracy. I'm going to read from this article from the Huffington Post. Mondaire Jones, Manchin would rather preserve Jim Crow for bipartisanship. Despite growing support among Democrats to abolish the filibuster, Manchin has remained vocally opposed to such a move, stating in his op-ed that he will not vote to weaken or eliminate the filibuster because he wants to seek bipartisan compromise, no matter how difficult, and to develop the political bonds that end divisions and help unite the country we love, unquote. However, Republicans have already shown that they plan to pass their own partisan legislation at the state level and use the filibuster at the federal level to block any legislation that requires them to compromise. Republican state legislators across the country are passing voter suppression laws under the guise of former President Donald Trump's lies that the 2020 election was fraudulent. Senate Republicans in Congress filibustered a bipartisan bill that would have established a bipartisan commission to investigate the January 6th insurrection on the Capitol. And that, too, was done away with. So I'm going to read from his op-ed, read right from Joe Manchin. These are his words. He penned. There's no spin to put on them. This is not taken out of context. This is Joe Manchin talking about the voting rights bill. I believe that partisan voting legislation will destroy the already weakening binds of our democracy. And for that reason, I will vote against the For the People Act. Furthermore, I will not vote to weaken or eliminate the filibuster. For as long as I have the privilege of being your U.S. Senator, I will fight to represent the people of West Virginia to seek bipartisan compromise, no matter how difficult, and to develop the political bonds that end divisions and help unite the country we love. American democracy is something special. It is bigger than one party or the tweet-filled partisan attack politics of the moment. It is my sincere hope that all of us, especially those who are privileged to serve, remember our responsibility to do more to unite this country before it is too late. Well, Senator Joe Manchin, respectfully, sir, that is dumb shittery. That is nonsense. Basic human civil rights in a democratic society take precedence over bipartisanship. You want to compromise with people who don't feel that Black Americans have the same rights and access to the franchise as you do. Why do we care what their opinion is? The Democrats are in power. An election was held. They hold the majority. And you don't want to fiddle with the filibuster, which takes 60 votes before you can even have a vote. We need Republicans on board to even decide whether to hold a vote. That's what the filibuster is. So Joe Manchin is a radical disappointment. I don't think it's a stretch to say that he is anti-democracy, which I guess would make him a bad guy. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think. I was going to play a clip, an extended clip from Chris Wallace's show on Fox News, but I'm going to forego that. It's just more of the same of him jockeying and trying to explain away, talking about how friendly he is with Republicans and we need their support too. No, we don't. No, we do not. Call, leave me a voicemail, 714-576-4054. You can email me daily at dollemore.com. I'd love to know what you think about this. You can also, if you are in a financial position to do so, you don't have to budget it in. It's not a problem. If you'd like to support my work, I would welcome that. You can click the join button, and for $2 a month, you can help support my work right here on the platform. Me yammering about the news, sometimes intellectually, and other times not. Today was kind of in the middle, I think. Follow me on social media. I'd love to connect with you there. I love you guys. I appreciate you so much. And I'll see you next time. Until I do, be genuine. Take care of one another.
I am going to pause for a second to take a short break while you listen to information regarding willpower and encouragement. It is all a matter of learning new behaviors. And please remember, it is easier to build strong minds than to repair injured people. What I said is a modification of a quote by Frederick Douglass. He said, it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Now for my break. Hello, this is Minister Gloria Lee from the Women of Courage Show. I want you to prepare to vote. That is correct. I want you to make up in your mind, come hell or high water, that you will vote in every election that is held in the state of Michigan, regardless of how long the voting lines are and regardless of the weather. Your vote is important. That is why you need to take some water with you and a small stool to sit on. Your vote will determine the property tax we pay, the car insurance that we pay, the housing that is available for seniors, the schools our children will attend. Your vote will determine the number of new job openings, the number of hospitals and hotels in our city. Your vote will determine the policies at our universities and the police force. Never assume that your vote does not count. Voting is the most essential activity that you will ever participate in your life. People have died so you can vote. Elections comes down to voter turnout, so stand in line and make your vote count. I would like for you now to listen to a short speech by John Lewis on voting. Listen to what he has to say and note the passion in his voice.
The Democratic National Convention has gavelled into session on this day 3, beginning about an hour ago. Let's go straight to the floor, where veteran Georgia Congressman and civil rights pioneer John Lewis is speaking.
Or do you want to keep America moving forward? My dear friends, your vote is precious, almost sacred. It is the most powerful non-violent tool we have to create a more perfect union. Not too long ago, people stood in unmovable lines. They had to pass a so-called literacy test, pay a poll tax. On one occasion, a man was asked to count the number of bubbles in a bar of soap. On another occasion, one was asked to count the jelly beans in a jar, all to keep them from casting their ballot. Today, it is unbelievable that there are Republican officials are trying to stop some people from voting. They're changing the rules, cutting polling hours and imposing a requirement intended to suppress the vote. The Republican leader in the Pennsylvania House even bragged that his state's new voter ID law is going to allow Governor Romney to win the state. That's not right, that's not fair, and that is not just. And similar efforts have been made in Texas, Ohio, Florida, Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, and South Carolina. I've seen this before. I lived this before. Too many people struggled, suffered, and died to make it possible for every American to exercise their right to vote. Together to ever turn back. So Democrats, we must not be silent. We must stand up, and speak out. We must march to the polls like never, ever before. We must come together and exercise our sacred right. And together, on November 6th, we will re-elect the man who will lead America forward, President Barack Obama.
For the past 2 months, I have discussed breast cancer in Black women. Recently, it occurred to me that I had not heard from males in the area. Not one man had written or called me for information on breast cancer, nor has any male volunteered to help our breast cancer campaign. This caused me to wonder why. I hope the answer is not that males think breast cancer is a woman's issue. It's not. It's a family issue. It's a marriage issue. It's a community issue. It is an issue that concerns us all. The loss of one member of our community is devastating. Everyone is affected by the death, either directly or indirectly. The death of a parent can lead to angry children and devastated husbands. The death of a parent can lead a child to criminal behavior. Breast cancer is serious business, not just because of the death, but because of the aftermath, the horror breast cancer leaves behind. This is why, as a community, this disease must be fought at all costs by all of us. You have mothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, and granddaughters, all at risk for breast cancer. Yes, women die of other diseases, but breast cancer is the most insidious disease of them all. I noticed I have not seen one man download the PDF file, Black Women and Breast Cancer, and send the file to any of his female relatives or friends for that matter. Why? You are concerned. So I would like for you to participate with me. Go to https://nisv.info and download the PDF file Black Women and Breast Cancer and send it to 5 of your friends. Also, please sit down and read the booklet. It's filled with information. One of the most important things about the disease is that we understand it. By understanding the disease, we can ask more informed questions of our doctors. Do you know how many people die or are injured each year because they take medication improperly? There is a reason why pharmacists insist on putting warning in our medication. This is why it's important that you learn to read. Medication errors are a problem with people who cannot read or are afraid to ask their doctor questions because they don't want to appear stupid. When you go in to see your doctor, it's not your job to try to impress him or her. You want their talents to impress you. So if you don't understand something, say so, and ask all the questions you need to feel comfortable taking your medicine or understanding your illness. The same with your pharmacist. Ask him or her questions until you feel comfortable taking your medication and you know how to take your medication properly. I received a medication in the mail. I did not know how to take it. I read the directions, but it was not clear to me how to take the medication properly. I was truly frustrated because I knew I was a competent reader. I drove down to the VA Medical Center and asked the pharmacist to show me how to take my medication. The pharmacist didn't say a word, but she came out, sat down, and demonstrated how I was to take my medication. And she discussed the actions the medication would have on my body. I left her knowing more than I did when I arrived. On another occasion, I received a phone call from a pharmacist, and she told me immediately to stop taking 2 of my medication because there was a contradiction. Both medications had been prescribed by doctors, but it was the pharmacist who noted that error. So don't feel stupid asking questions of your doctor or pharmacist. That is their job, to help you with the care of your body. This is why the booklet Black Women and Breast Cancer is so important. It's filled with information. The information is presented in such a way as to make you aware of what you did not know or understand. This awareness should prompt you to ask questions of your physician. All cancers are not the same. This is why family history is so important. The booklet was also written to let Black women know that their cancer can be more virulent and more progressive than others. The book was also written to inspire Black women to become more involved in the research of their particular breast cancer. Who's doing the research? Where is the research being conducted? And how is this research being funded? And by whom? I believe we can have a significant breakthrough with cancer if Black women become more aggressive in funding research. Join us to support our campaign by purchasing a book. See our advertisement. We have great gifts for men.
Democratic Senator Joe Manchin's recent op-ed where he explained why he cannot support the For the People Act was complete garbage. And as the week has ticked on, we have learned a lot more about just how garbage that little piece written by Manchin truly is. One of the best pieces explaining why this happened came from Igor Darish over at Salon.com, where Mr. Darish explained that starting in 2012, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce actually stopped giving Joe Manchin money. And for, of course, our loyal Ring of Fire viewers here, you have heard us for many, many years talk about the evils of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, their lobbying activities, who they're funding, what they're doing. The whole thing is for right-wing corporatists to take over the government. And in 2012, they stopped giving money to Joe Manchin until earlier this year. In fact, until not that long ago. The corporate PAC of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which is funded by the executives at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, decided to make a donation to Joe Manchin. And wouldn't you know it, a short time later, he comes out with this op-ed saying, you know what? Suddenly, I don't support the For the People Act, even though 2 years ago, I actually co-sponsored a basically identical piece of legislation in the Senate. Now that, things have happened, I'm not so sure I agree with my own 2019 self anymore. So what's different between 2019 Joe Manchin and 2021 Joe Manchin? The corporate money. And it's not just from the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce, of course, is funded by all sorts of massive corporations, including those with connections to the Koch family. So yes, Joe Manchin and his corporate money is what made him flip on this particular issue that, again, 2 years ago, the guy was the champion of it. He had his name on the legislation, for God's sakes. But now, nothing. You get nothing. All because of Joe Manchin. One guy from West Virginia says no, so that's the way it is. Because that's how broken our idiotic system is here today. And all it took was one donation from the Chamber's Political Action Committee for Joe Manchin to forget who he was just 2 short years ago. The guy's a slimeball. The guy is just as bad, if not worse, than most every other Republican serving in that United States Senate today. The DNC needs to cut him off immediately. And after all, apparently he doesn't even need the DNC. He's got all of his corporate buddies to give him money. But it's time to kick Manchin out of the party. I know that means losing majority of the Senate, but as long as he's around, we don't have a majority in the Senate either way. Kick him out. Get rid of him. Tell him don't ever come back. We don't ever want to see you again. Because as I've also explained in the past, considering that Manchin loves to be a contrarian, kicking him out of the party might be the only way to actually get him to vote with the Democrats going forward. This is Hattie. Hattie wants to know why you have not subscribed to our channel. You obviously like our videos, so do us a favor and subscribe. The Republican Party itself is involved in more than a dozen different lawsuits challenging expansions of voting rights across the country. These are lawsuits that the Republican Party has either filed themselves or lawsuits that their, little affiliate organizations have filed, and the National Republican Party has just filed briefs in support of. They have joined into the lawsuit. But nevertheless, that's a lot of legal battles in more than a dozen different states that the Republican Party itself is involved in during an election year, when they need to be kind of focusing all their cash on not losing the White House, the Senate, and not having a horrible blue wave wipe out what few House seats they have left. All things which, by the way, are being predicted. But they've decided that the better way to fight that was to spend their money not promoting candidates or ideas, but to make sure you don't have the right to vote. How pathetic is that, by the way? Let's just talk about that for a second. We have a political party that finds it easier to take away your right to vote than it does to come up with a single good idea to get you to actually support them. That's how shitty the Republican Party is. They would rather just strip away your constitutional rights than have to come up with an actual idea that would make you like them. That's how unlikable they are. That's pathetic. And that is what Republicans are. Republicans are pathetic because this is what they resort to. More than a dozen different lawsuits. So the question is, who's paying the bills? Right? The Republican Party does have their, legal fund, which is separate from their campaign money fund. So who is paying these bills? Luckily, we have wonderful organizations out there like Sludge. Sludge is absolutely one of my favorite sources for independent investigative journalism. And they've gone through the files. They have gone through the financial documents, folks, and they have found out all of the millionaires and billionaires who are funding these right-wing lawsuits from the Republican Party to strip you of your right to vote. And let's name the names. You have John and Marlene Ricketts from TD Ameritrade, who have given $321,000. Frank and Jill Fertitta from Stations Casinos. Lorenzo and Teresa Fertitta, both of which couples have given $213,000. Kelsey and Amy Warren from Energy Transfer Partners. Isaac and Laura Perlmutter from Marvel Entertainment. Diane Hendricks from ABC Supply. Bernard and Wilma Marcus from Home Depot. James Davis from New Balance. John and Andrea Katsamatidis from Gristetis Foods United Refining Company, John Paulson from Paulson & Co., Philip Ruffin from Treasure Island Hotel and Casino, Linda McMahon from the WWE, Darwin Deason from Affiliated Computer Services, also known as Xerox, Andrew Beal from Beal Bank, Charles Schwab from Charles Schwab Corporation, James Dolan from Madison Square Garden Company, Stuart Rahr from Kinray, which is Cardinal Health. Warren Stevens from Stevens Incorporated. Joe Lyment from Trilogy Software and ESW Capital. Jude Reyes from Reyes Holdings. Christopher Reyes from Reyes Holdings. Ken Fisher from Fisher Investments. Richard LaFranc from LaFranc. That is a veritable who's who from different industries, funding all of these right-wing websites to take away your rights. So why are they doing it? Why are these people willing to pay for these lawsuits through the Republican Party to take away your right to vote? Because they understand, just like Trump admitted not that long ago, that the more people turn out to vote, the worse it is for the Republican Party. If you actively go out there and you exercise your right to vote, Republicans are going to lose. Trump admitted it, and these people know it. And they're willing to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars apiece, millions of dollars collectively, to make sure that you don't do it. So I think the best way to honor that is to make sure that you do get out there and you vote. And you vote against every Republican that you can. Because that's the second part of it. It's not just get out there and vote. I am actively telling people to go out there and vote against Republicans. Notice the phrasing I use there. Vote against Republicans. I'm not telling you who to vote for or what to vote for. I'm just telling you what to vote against. Nevertheless, if they want to strip you of your right to vote, it means they're afraid of you. They're afraid of the power that you have. And the best way that you can preserve it and you can protect it is to exercise it. Because that power is essentially a muscle. If you're not going to exercise it, if you're not going to work it out, then you may as well let them take it away, because it's just going to be useless either way.
Touched by the Light Publishing is a leader in the world of books. We create meaningful moments for our readers by producing inspirational books to inspire people to go beyond what they have imagined for themselves and to go beyond what other people have prophesied into their lives. We believe men and women should dream. It is dreams that carry all of us into the future. When you stop dreaming, you have given up on life and the possibilities of what change can bring. You should visit touchedbythelight.us and learn what our books have to offer. Please watch our video on YouTube at Touched by the Light Publishing for the many ways we can help the community. We can be reached at murderedvoices@gmail.com.
Hi, I decided that at the end of every show for the next year, I would share excerpts from a book that I believe would enhance your life and make you a stronger thinker and problem solver. All characteristics that will help you win at life and raise stronger and healthy children. Many of you turn your nose up at reading, or you snub the advice that you must read in life to succeed, or you compare the cost of a book to getting a new pair of shoes or getting your hair done or your nails done. The reason why you make these cost comparisons is because you do not truly value a book. A book is a magnificent instrument that can change the course of your life and the lives of your children. In later shows, I plan to discuss with you how a book changed the lives of certain people. I understand that you do not earn a lot of money, and this money is valuable to you because of all the things you see advertised that you desire, and you do not want to spend a lot of money on a book. A new pair of shoes is more valuable to you than a book. If you truly cannot afford a book, then you need to go to the library and take your children with you for a day of reading. You must gird your loins and proceed at educating yourself. Some of you seem to think that having a conversation with your stupid girlfriend or your stupid boyfriend will help you more than reading a book, when actually having a conversation with your loudmouth girlfriend or loudmouth boyfriend is merely a cathartic, allowing you to blow off steam and proclaim how life has been so unfair to you. What you do not realize is that the advice coming from your do-nothing girlfriend or your do-nothing boyfriend is advice coming from a fool. Your do-nothing girlfriend is a sexual opportunist looking for a man she can impress with her body. When her vagina fails her, what will your girlfriend do but go to work at McDonald's or Wendy's at the age of 60 and continue to spread her ignorance at church? Her daughter will be on the street and her son in prison. She will never realize that her life is the result of the decision she made not to educate herself through reading. All her life she felt that she had something better to do than reading. She had something better to do than reading with her children. She had something better to do than working with her children. And that was going to the bar, trying to entertain a man or trying to find some man that would buy her a pair of shoes. A man spending money on her was more important than educating herself. In later shows, I'm going to spend a great deal of time giving you some examples of fools. These are people who think they are smart, willing to trade their body and integrity for a dollar bill. These people end up in the cemetery after lamenting each and every day of their lives about their unfulfilled dreams. Do not be upset by the use of the word fool. You tell me if a woman is not a fool to instruct her grandson to kill her husband for a $25,000 life insurance. Let that sink in for a moment. Instead of instructing her grandson to make something of his life, the grandmother instructs her grandson to become a murderer, to kill his grandfather. I have this anecdotal advice for you about reading. Listen to this short true story. A friend and I were talking. She said a woman she knew called her and sought to renew their friendship. During their conversation, the woman told my friend that President Trump had done so much for black people, and that's why she voted for him in 2016, and she was going to vote for him again in the upcoming election. My friend asked her a question. She said, "Tell me some of the things that Trump has done for black people." The woman said, "A whole lot." My friend persisted and asked her to name one thing that Trump had done for black people. The woman could not. The woman kept using the phrase, "a whole lot of things." My friend said after a while she stopped talking. Finally, the conversation was over and my friend hung up. My friend said, as she hung up, she made up her mind right then that she would never renew her friendship with this woman. Now ask yourself why. Why would she not renew her friendship with this woman? You can answer this question in 2 words. The woman was a poor thinker. She never investigated anything that was told to her. Whether you know it or not, a person who is a poor thinker, who does not examine his or her thinking, is a very dangerous person indeed. Think about it. Today we will be discussing the book, What You Must Do to Win. This is an excellent read, and after you finish reading it, you will enjoy it, but you must put some of the ideas that the author talks about into practice. Reading is not enough. You must put these ideas into practice. If you are concerned with the direction that your life is taking, you should consider the way you think. If you are unhappy in your marriage, consider the way you think. If you are unhappy at your job, you should consider the way you think. If you are unmarried but pregnant with your 3rd child, you should consider the way you think. If you are some man's mistress, you should consider the way that you think. If you are drowning your heart with alcohol, you should consider the way you think. If you are cheating on your spouse, you should consider the way you think. If you are planning on killing your boyfriend's wife, you should consider the way you think. If you are jeopardizing your children's lives by bringing an unrelated male into your home, you should consider the way you think. If you are allowing your husband to beat you in your home, you should consider the way you think. If you are soothing your mental pain with opioids, you should consider the way you think. If you are considering moving in with a man without the benefit of marriage, you should consider the way you think. If you are preparing or not preparing for retirement, you should consider the way you think. If you purchase expensive clothing to impress other people, but you do not spend money so your child can have a computer or a tutor to help him with school, you definitely need to consider the way you think. One of the reasons why mankind has had and is having problems with thinking is that all of his or her life they have been taught by their teachers and parents and grandparents what to think, not how to think. Listen to that distinction again. People as children are told what to think, not how to think. They're not taught that. A case in point is the notion that Columbus discovered America. He did not. Recently, a group of 7th graders took a publisher to task for saying in their textbooks that Columbus discovered America. The 7th graders said he discovered an island in the Caribbean, not America. Not being taught how to think is especially true in households where parents do not allow dissenting opinions from their children. Parents such as these exert control over thought in their households because they cannot tolerate or counter opposing opinions. These parents cannot tolerate a child questioning the existence of God. They cannot tolerate a child questioning the theory of creation. Creation must be accepted because it's right. Not so much that the theory of creation is right or can be proven, but that certain men say it's right and these men can back their opinion up with a gun. These gun-toting men say, we shall ignore any opinion that we do not agree with the way we think. So you see, man has two problems. He's not being taught how to think, and his thoughts are constantly being inhibited by men who seek power. Men who seek power like to be followed by people who are stupid and people who cannot think. Men who think cannot be controlled unless you kill 1 million of them. So says the dictators of this world. All a dictator needs is a gun and religion. He can rule forever. Politics aside, let us look at areas closer to home. We shall discuss thinking with respect to who is the face in the mirror that we look at every morning. There are several categories of thinking. When you have time, go to several dictionaries and look up the meanings of the various categories of thinking. There is negative thinking and there is positive thinking. There is healthy thinking and there is unhealthy thinking. There is emotional thinking and there is non-emotional thinking. And there is a category called critical thinking. This is a type of thinking used by problem solvers and inventors. These thinkers were responsible for the scientific method. These are the futuristic thinkers. They are constantly asking the question, what if? Only when they ask the question, what if, is the thinker is looking to a project and to solve a problem. They're not looking to forecast gloom and doom. Most people think negatively. Forgetting that negative thinking means when you think this way, you can foretell the future. The problem with negative thinking, such as worrying, it can become a habit. Negative thinking can turn you into a sad sack, and no one wants to be around you. They do not even want you as an employee or a neighbor. Why? Because negative thinking is no good for yourself or others. Your thinking does not enhance your life. Your thinking causes people to be depressed. When drinking is no longer fun, it is depressing. When using drugs is no longer fun, it is depressing. In the book, What You Must Do to Win, the writer presents you with several situations that people find themselves in, and the writer gives you some suggestions as to how to get out of these situations. God said, choose life. To do this, you must believe and you must stand up to change. Do not let negative people and toxic relationships keep you from realizing your dreams. You can be a better person. You must stop doing what you're doing and decide on conducting a better life. The drinking, the smoking, the snorting coke, lusting after someone else's boyfriend or husband or wife, and sexting every time you get a chance signifies that you have no respect for yourself or your children or anyone else. You have given up. You do not know how to manage your life. Your self-image is out of sync. How low are you going to go before you change? Your children will not survive if you do not change. Take a good look at your children. They will not have a future if you do not change. Are you not tired of seeing men and boys being carted off to prison for lack of knowledge or opportunity? Are you not tired of seeing women stand on the corner prostituting themselves? Are you not tired of envying other people and saying to yourself, I wish I were them? Stop fantasizing. Stop being ashamed of yourself because you're poorly educated or afraid, or you don't look like someone else. Your feet are too big, your ears are too big, or your breasts are too small, and your butt is too small. Stand up to life and change. Change is hard, but why die expressing regret? Do you know that negative thought and the negative dialogue that we conduct with ourselves every day can lead to murder because it's based on envy, hatred, and jealousy? I'm going to talk to you about how self-dialogue has led to murder. Hello, this is the Women of Courage show, and I am Gloria Lee, your host. For the most part, almost all of our broadcasts are dedicated to trying to get men and women to focus their attention to changing their behavior to live a better life. You must understand your change is essential to the well-being and survival of your children. We want children to avoid the profession of prostitution and living a life in prison. When you change, you will see the possibilities available to you. You do not have to continue to live a life that you hate and a life that you are truly ashamed of. Poverty does not have to define you. Let your strength and perseverance define you. You can listen to us at home, in your car, or at work on your lunch hour. It is essential that you get a daily dose of encouragement every day. Just a few minutes a day of listening to us can make learning effortless. You can even listen to us while you're preparing dinner or just as you are about to fall asleep. We want you to fit our broadcast into your day. This is why we put all of our broadcasts on the YouTube channel Touched by the Light Publishing. Our goal is to inspire you to greatness. So give Women of Courage a listen to throughout the week And please support us by purchasing a book today from our website, touchedbythelight.us. Thank you. Our lessons are viewer supported. If you enjoy our lessons and they have been a help to you, please send the Women of Courage Show a donation. Any amount will help. $1 will help. Spread our message. You can also go to our website, touchedbythelight.us, and purchase the book, You Are the Prophet of Your Life. We support ourselves through book sales. The book is also on sale at the radio station WHPR 160 Victor Street in Highland Park, Michigan, right off of Woodward Avenue. If you do not have internet access, you can make a donation to us by mailing it to Post Office Box 7688, Bloomfield Hills, Michigan 48302. Your support will be greatly appreciated. This video was brought to you by the Women and Children's Restoration Ministries. Why not email us at murderedvoices@gmail.com and learn about the programs we have to assist women to fulfill themselves. We welcome women who wish to participate. Surely you have a few hours each month to help us with one of the many programs we are developing. Your expertise will be greatly welcome. We believe that one of our programs, Returning Citizens, The Wall Project, Black Women and Breast Cancer, and Teach Someone to Read, will interest you, where you might volunteer once a month to help us. Our primary function is to assist women in changing their lives for the better. Please email us today at murdervoices@gmail.com. We will appreciate your help. Thank you.
Congressman John Lewis is a living legend and an icon of the civil rights movement. A central focus of Lewis's activism has been the fight for the right to vote, a right that until 1965, generations of African Americans had been denied.
When John Lewis was a teenager, he read in a comic book about what Dr. King had been doing in Montgomery. And he went to his parents and he says, I want to be part of this.
By 1963, John Lewis had helped organize demonstrations and sit-ins across the South. When he was elected chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee that same year, he became one of the Big Six leaders of the civil rights movement and helped plan the March on Washington. At age 23, Lewis was the youngest person to speak at the event. But his most defining moment came 2 years later, when he turned his attention to voting rights and helped lead a dangerous civil rights march from Selma to Montgomery.
John Lewis was on the front lines of the 50-mile march, starting in Selma to Montgomery, demonstrating the murder of Jimmy Lee Jackson, a young African American who was killed by a state trooper, but also the denial of African Americans' right to vote across the South. If they could get the nation to zero in on Selma, Alabama, a place that had a large black population and very few African Americans who were registered to vote, then perhaps there could be some action.
As activists marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, state troopers tear-gassed and beat them on what came to be known as Bloody Sunday. Lewis himself was severely beaten, suffering a fractured skull. 8 days after Bloody Sunday, President Lyndon Baines Johnson introduced the Voting Rights Act in Congress, and he would sign it into law in August 1965.
Today, we strike away the last major shackle of those fierce and ancient bonds.
The Voting Rights Act of 1965 was written on the road from Selma to Montgomery. The government responded and reacted to the power of the people.
John Lewis has helped secure the right to vote for millions of Americans. He's been on the front lines of the fight for civil rights for over 50 years. And the last time I checked, he was still fighting.
Too many people struggled, suffered, and died to make it possible for every American to exercise their right to vote. And we have come too far together to ever turn back. We must stand up, and speak out.
This video was brought to you by the Women and Children's Restoration Ministries. Why not email us at murderedvoices@gmail.com and learn about the programs we have to assist women. We welcome women who wish to participate. Surely you have a few hours each month to help us with one of our programs. We believe that one of our programs, Recruiting Citizens, The Wall Project, Black Women in Cancer, Teach Someone to Read, will interest you, where you might volunteer once a month to help us. Our primary function is to assist women in changing their lives. Email us today. We would appreciate your help. We enjoy your listening to the Women of Courage show at WHPR every Friday from 3 to 4 p.m. and every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. And we support your local hairstylist. Do not forget to go to touchedbythelight.us website and download a copy of the booklet, Black Women and Breast Cancer. This is very important information, and we would appreciate it if you email a copy of this booklet to 5 other women. We are trying to reach 1 million people with this booklet. Help us reach our goal. Your emailing this booklet to another woman can help save a life.